What is the will of Ma Kali, our Divine Mother? Now, for those of us who worship the Divine Mother Kali, she's more real to us than we are to ourselves. Once we start meditating, once we start feeling her past everything, we might start to question, how real are we? She becomes so real to us that we start to feel ephemeral, like a gas surrounding the core of a star, or a mantle surrounding a solid metal core of a planet that's just spinning and spinning. And because it's spinning, because it's active, because it's moving, everything around it can exist in some level of harmony. That's the way that Kali is acting within us. Now, even those of us who feel that she exists, that feel that she's more real than we are, once that's a given state of existence, once that's a given fact for us, we start to think about the Divine Mother's will. Once we feel that she's real, that she's at our center, she's a given fact, we start to question why her will manifests in the world as it does. Why is 30% of the world's population, for instance, a bigger percentage than any other religion or spiritual path, Christian? If 30% of the world's population is Christian, that must also be the Divine Mother's will, however we might feel about Christianity. Now, for a lot of us Shaktas who worship the Divine Mother Kali, we view the various avatars, Sri Ramakrishna, Jesus Christ, Krishna, Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha specifically. We view them as drops of the Divine Mother. We view them as her descending to this world to guide us, to help us, to move us along our way. And since that is the case for a lot of us, those of us who don't believe that, we might think, why is the Divine Mother wanting 30% of the world to be Christian? And a remarkable amount to be Muslim, a remarkable amount to be Buddhist, when there are far, far fewer Shaktas? How do we reconcile that fact, that there are far fewer Shaktas, and this is itself the Divine Mother's will? One way that I've learned to reconcile it, in a way, is the world needs various phases of belief. For a time, it needs dogmatism. For a time, it needs patriarchy even. For a time, it needs that very base level of religion that's very basic. That's kindergarten religion, as Swami Vivekananda would call it. You know, hopefully people will graduate from kindergarten religion, but there are phases of the Earth's entire existence and humanity's existence on Earth when that kind of dogmatism and that kind of kindergarten religion needs to have its time. And its time, while it seems long, thousands of years, this is an ascending age. And the age of ascending and ascension, there will be far more years when the Divine Mother is worshipped than just these dogmatic patriarchal religions have their day. We can't see beyond their scope now. We can't see beyond them having hold of the world's concept of religion and God and understanding the soul. We can't see beyond that now, but there is a beyond that. And that beyond that is much longer than the dogmatism of the Abrahamic religions that we see having conquered the world's idea of God for now. It's the Divine Mother's will. She's allowing it to happen because it needs to happen now, for a time. And then we might also ask ourselves, why is there so much pain in the world? Now, for Shaktas, for many non-dual Hindus, Tantrikas, we don't view the world as being dual. We don't view there being a God and a Satan. The Divine Mother Kali is both God and Satan, wrapped into one. When people say, oh, you're worshiping Kali, you're worshiping Satan, yes, but so much more. It's difficult to reconcile in the mind and accept that the Divine Mother is also doing the bad things. But she's allowing souls to reap the fruits of their actions. It's more, I view it more as she's allowing these things to happen so that souls learn, rather than her doing the negative things. But keep in mind, the Divine Mother holds a head in her hand, and the base understanding of that decapitated head is that it's a demon's head. But once you start to truly get closer to her teachings and start contemplating, you realize, and you hear from others, that it's a human head. Both things are true. It can be a demon, it can be a human as well. So this could be a good human. It could be the head of a good human. For she is the slayer of all. And he who thinks he is the slain or the slayer are both wrong. For I am the slayer and the slain. That comes from the Bhagavad Gita, and that's Krishna saying it to Arjuna. But for us, Krishna is Kali. And it's hard for a lot of us who love Kali so much to view her as being something that's negative. That's something negative and positive. But we don't like to look at the negative side. We don't try to see her in a negative way. But she's also the negative side. There's a lot of people that become fascinated with Kali that are kind of goth, that are kind of into the whole blood and gore thing. And that fascination is shallow. And hopefully, even if that brings you to Kali, you kind of move beyond that and she becomes more of like a mother to you than something like a lover or some kind of sexual fantasy, which is not a good way to relate to her, and not a way that brings you closer to her. She'll never really open herself up to you unless you relate to her as mother, rather than some kind of strange sexual idol. But when bad things are happening to you in your life, if you can smile and think that it's the Divine Mother's will, who knows where this will lead? Sometimes you need to get into a car accident to actually get a car that is a little bit, maybe doesn't seem better at first, but turns out you like this new car more than your old one. And it has better gas mileage, and your old one, it wasn't what you needed. But the new car, even if it doesn't seem as nice at first, you start to realize it's a better car. It's just an analogy, but there's a lot of things that can happen in our life, like getting fired from a job. And then that allows us to move on and find something better. Maybe we might find something worse for a time, but then eventually we find something better. There's a whole lot of bad things that need to happen in our life for the impetus to change to occur and to continue, so that we may grow and we may reach ultimately better things. Ultimately, the Divine Mother wants us to reach better things, wants us to reach things that are more appropriate for us at our stage of development, so that we may reach higher stages of development, whatever that is in life. It's not just our spiritual life that she's in charge of. If you worship the Divine Mother, she's in charge of our day-to-day life. And bad things will happen to us. If we can just smile and think it's the Divine Mother's will, we'll be much better off for it. And, there was once this has happened, I'm sure, many times, but I heard this story of this saint that was in India. He was at a train station, just going about his business. And then all of a sudden, he was grabbed by police. And he didn't know what was going on. The police thought he was somebody that he wasn't. They thought he was a criminal that had done something when they just found the wrong guy. But the saint kind of looked shocked in the eyes, but also smiled at the same time, and not sure what was going on, but just like, wow, where's life taking me now? What is this strange occurrence that is happening? When it's clearly not a good occurrence, but if you can be surprised, but that surprise bring you joy, that is an amazing state to be in. And that's a higher state than the one we often find ourselves in, isn't it? If we can bring ourselves to that joy at the surprise, at the random, at the next turn of the wheel, whatever that turn is, we'll glide through life far easier than we would if we just hold on to ego and just think of good things as happening to us as us being blessed and bad things as us being cursed. Every curse is a blessing in disguise. And in a way, every blessing a curse. Whatever moves us forward, whatever helps us develop, that's what the Divine Mother makes happen in our lives. However strange it might seem, and however hard it may be to view her as having that negative effect, but she also has a negative effect, but to incur the positive. It seems paradoxical, but that's because we're used to thinking in dualistic terms. And the Divine Mother Kali is beyond dualism. She's beyond light and darkness. She's beyond safety and danger. She's beyond separation between us and her. She is, remember, at our core. She is spinning always, working always at our core. She's realer than us. She's so vast. Anyway, that was just a little video about some reflections on the Divine Mother's will. And I hope that some of these points made sense. If you like this video at all, hit that thumbs up down there. It really helps out the channel. Feel free to leave a comment. I read all comments. I try to respond to all comments. And feel free to share this video wherever you like. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. Jai Ma, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day.